Welcome to Module 3. The first couple of modules that you spend some time with in this class deal with, I would call, overview of all types of economic topics. Supply and demand, scarcity, production possibilities. In other words, just kind of introducing you to what is economics. Now we get into, from this point on in the course through the rest of the course, we're talking specifically about macroeconomics. The whole area of macroeconomics is trying to understand, from the perspective of the entire economy, how do things work? Why does some production get made? Why does some other production not get made? Why are some people thrown out of work? Why do we have inflation? The biggest problem in today's economy is, of course, the recession, which has high unemployment and slow economic growth. Why do we care about that? It's because if you went out and go and look for a job, you might find it difficult to find a job right now, and that makes it tough on lots of people. So the topics we're going to talk about from now through the rest of the course are helping us to understand, well, why does the whole economy work the way it does? And we'll talk about, in some policy sense, are there things we can do to make it work better? All right. So having said all that, we start off with trying to understand, if we're going to understand the economy, we have to understand, well, what is the economy? More specifically, how do we measure the economy? And how we measure the economy is something called gross domestic product, or GDP. We'll spend some more time on that a little later. I'm just introducing you to the concept of it right now. GDP is our overall measure of the economy. It has to do with the sale of all the goods and services that happen in a given year. We measure GDP every year. By comparing GDP from one year to the next, we can figure out, well, is the economy getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Is it getting bigger fast enough? Those kind of questions we can address because we have some measure of what that means. The next topic we're going to talk about in this class is something to do with why do we care about the economy in general. It's more generally living standards. How rich are we? Do we have enough? Do we want more? Do we have enough? What do living standards mean? For most of you in this class, I would suspect you're from generally middle class backgrounds. By middle class, I mean you probably have a house or an apartment. You probably have a car. Likely you have a refrigerator, probably air conditioning, maybe not, microwave. Those kind of things kind of define what we think of as the middle class. We have enough money to feed ourselves. We have enough money to get back and forth to where we want to go. We may not consider ourselves rich, but we're not poor either. Is that living standard commensurate with what living standards are around the rest of the world? There's a lot of countries that the way we live, we would be considered rich. So it all depends on your perspective. But that's what economic growth is about. Economic growth is about alleviating the problems of scarcity, fundamentally. It's giving us enough food, enough shelter, transportation to get around, a means to employ, to work. That's what economic growth gives us. Another thing we're going to talk about through the latter part of this class, we're going to talk about savings and spending. If you really think about your income when you get your paycheck, especially your disposable check, that's the money you have to spend. You can do lots of things with that money. You can buy sodas, you can pay rent, you can buy gas, you can buy clothes, you can go to the movies, or, of course, you can save. Fundamentally, economists like to think there's really only two things we can do with our money. We can spend it or we save it. Spending it is obvious. We all know how to spend it. Savings may be an aspect of the economy you may not be quite as familiar with. By saving your income, that provides money for other people to then invest to help develop economic growth. Think about it. As a business grows, I need to go down to the bank. They get a loan. Where do the banks get the money that they loan out? It comes from you and I when we save our money in the bank. That investment that a business uses then is what's used to build the business. Say a florist might need that money to buy a new delivery van, so that makes the florist more productive in delivering flowers. It might make a restaurant more productive because now they can buy a new oven. It might make a car plant more productive because now they can upgrade the assembly line and make cars a lot faster, a lot cheaper. Investment is a key component of the economy, as we'll find. And just to clarify, when we talk about investment in this class, we're not talking about like buying stocks. We're talking about economic investment has to do with business spending to make the business more productive. So that's what investment is. Buying capital, new delivery van, new ovens, new factory assembly lines, spending money on those kind of things is what makes a business more productive. That's what we're going to call investment. And then finally, a latter part of chapter 23 addresses the issue of inflexible or sticky prices. Throughout our economy, generally what you see are prices can go up, but rarely do you see prices come down. And that's the observation that prices tend to be flexible upward, but not flexible downward. Why does that create problems for the economy as a whole? Well, if you look on page 478 of your textbook, in particular figure 23.1, it has a diagram or a graph there that shows the example of a car manufacturing company that faces different types of demands. If the car company thinks the demand's going to be around 900 cars per week, it can gear up its production line to make 900 cars a week. If the demand, for whatever reason, is less than that, as shown by diagram DL, then that means that the company's probably not going to sell 900 cars a week at the current price. If the company could lower its price, it could still sell 900 cars a week. It just sells them at a lower price, but they could keep the production line geared up and make 900 cars. What happens if prices are not flexible? In other words, what if they're not willing to lower the price? Well, looking at the right-hand side of the diagram, it says, well, the car company keeps the price at the same level. They sell fewer cars. Now they're only going to sell 700 cars. So if they only sell 700 cars, they have a choice. They either pile up the cars in inventory, that they're not sold, or they have to start firing people because they don't sell enough cars. If they could lower the price or decided to lower the price, they wouldn't have to fire anybody and they could still produce 900 cars. So inflexible prices create this issue in the macroeconomy where quite often people lose their jobs not because of anything wrong they're doing. It's simply this added restriction, if you will, of prices, of businesses not being interested in lowering their prices. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and your textbook talks about it. So this is a quick overview of chapter 23. Please, as always, if you have questions, give me a call or shoot me an email.